Home sweet home. Home is where the heart is. I'm sure that all of you had heard these sayings at least once in your life. Every time there's a school break, kids from PC flood off of this campus so that they can go home and enjoy a warm meal, sleep in their own bed, and see their family and friends. But what if you didn't have a home to go to? What if you dreaded breaks from school because that would mean you'd be forced to sleep in a car, or a one-bedroom apartment for a family of 5, or even a rundown house that doesn't have utilities and is in an unsafe neighborhood? Well, some families actually have to deal with this issue every day. Today, I hope to persuade you to volunteer for some nonprofit charities that aid families that are poverty-stricken and have to deal with these issues. Poverty is an issue that impacts families all across the world. Many impoverished Americans have to deal with social problems such as a rise in crime, poor education, health care, welfare dependencies, and now on top of that, the housing crisis. Poverty is directly related to the housing crisis. With rent and mortgage prices spiking, more and more families are becoming or even staying in debt because they're drowning in bills. Families are being forced to put nearly half of their income towards rent. They're being forced to spend their monies on bills as opposed to necessities such as food, water, clothes, and health services. The main issue is that the amount of people living in poverty is rising. However, the amount of affordable housing is shrinking. According to Thrive and Builds, which is a financial accounting firm, an affiliate for Habitat for Humanity, nearly 5.1 million American families have worst-case housing needs. These are incidences that can affect the safety and health of a family. Impoverished people are being forced to live in bad conditions with worst-case housing needs because they're unable to afford proper housing. Some of the major housing problems that they face are unsafe and poor conditions, overcrowding, and their rents are just too high. These circumstances could lead to physical, mental, and psychological issues for the inhabitants. A study done by Dr. James Krieger claims that poor housing conditions could lead to a variety of serious health issues. He says that the inhabitants could face a risk of respiratory infection, asthma, lead poisoning, injuries, and fire hazards. In addition, children fall victim to the housing crisis, and their physical and psychological development is affected. In a survey done by American Housing Association, they found that more than 17.6 million households with children experience at least one major housing problem. In a survey done by the American Housing Association, they found that more than 17.6 million households with children experience at least one major housing problem. Affordable housing is a necessity for everyone. If people do not have a decent place to live, then they cannot be productive members of society, children cannot learn, and families cannot thrive. However, you can aid impoverished people from experiencing these problems by volunteering for the nonprofit organization Habitat for Humanity. What is Habitat? Habitat is an organization that works on making sure that people have a decent, safe, and affordable place to live. They build homes and sell them for low and affordable rates. They aid impoverished people that are forced to live in hazardous living situations. With the help of volunteers from colleges, companies, and civilians, Habitat is able to rebuild communities and construct new housing neighborhoods. They build not only within the country, but all around the world, in countries such as Asia, Africa, South America, and Europe. Who's helped by Habitat? Families that fit the criteria of housing issues, such as living in an overcrowded home, unaffordable rent, bad conditions, and unsafe neighborhood, are eligible. And this is how they work. The homeowners with the eligibility requirements go through a selection process. Once selected, they have to fulfill certain aspects before they can obtain their newly built home. Homeowners have to volunteer hours of labor called sweat equity before they can receive their home. They also have to put a down payment on the home, make mortgage payments, and keep a savings account. Volunteers from around the world then come to help build the home. It's a nonprofit organization that depends on donations from individuals to fund their sites. And these are some ways that you can volunteer. One way is that you can go to the Habitat for Humanity website and look for your local supervisor. They give you an option to type in your state and zip code, and they go to the nearest site. Or you can volunteer right through PC, through campus ministry. They have day trip on the weekends, and they offer a spring break trip to various sites along the East Coast. Last spring, I volunteered during spring break to go to Wilmington, Delaware. It was a fun experience. I learned how to use a hammer and became a pro at painting. There are many benefits to volunteering for Habitat for Humanity. The first thing is that you're able to meet new people. Between the construction workers, homeowners, and other volunteers, you'll be able to interact with people from around the world that are trying to better society. It also gives you a chance to travel to new places, not just in the United States, but all around the country. It's also an opportunity to give back to your community. By creating more housing units, more people will be able to live in adequate housing. It benefits the economy, communities, health, and safety of the population. Therefore, with this information, I highly recommend volunteering for the nonprofit organization Habitat for Humanity. Although you can't completely fix the housing crisis or solve the problem of poverty, by volunteering for nonprofit charities such as Habitat for Humanity, you'll be able to touch the lives of people being affected by these issues. Therefore, instead of sleeping in on the weekends or lying around over spring break, pick up a hammer and help build new experiences by help building a home for someone in need.